In a must-watch moment, Bill Maher takes CNN anchor Kaitlan Collins to task for her network's blatant political bias. With sharp wit and undeniable facts, Maher highlights what many viewers already suspect: CNN doesn't even try to be neutral anymore. He calls out the stark contrast between the network's glowing coverage of Kamala Harris and its relentless negativity toward Donald Trump. As the conversation unfolds, Collins scrambles to defend CNN, but her responses fall flat. In the end, Maher is left with no choice but to move on, as the debate reaches a dead end of deflection and denial. This is a masterclass in exposing media hypocrisy. Don't miss it.
And he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight. And the crowd burst into laughter. Look, I'm on CNN now. I guess we're on it right now. I mean, they show this show the next night. I don't know how we get away with it with all the fucks, but they do. And all these dirty jokes. But I'm glad, and I'm a big rooter for CNN. But that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of, like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with that?
How is CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have Ted Cruz on another night. I think lawmakers from both parties should take questions, and you should push both of them.
You don't push Democrats to answer tough questions, Kaitlan. So don't claim that you do. This is the real issue. Just bringing on the opposing side isn't enough to claim neutrality. That's not what Bill Maher is talking about. The problem runs deeper than simply featuring guests from both parties. It's about how the news is framed and presented. The bias is woven into the reporting itself, shaping narratives in a way that subtly, or sometimes blatantly, favors one perspective over another. The mere presence of conservative voices on a panel doesn't balance out the underlying slant in how stories are told, how issues are prioritized, and how opposing viewpoints are challenged. If CNN truly sought to be an even playing field, it wouldn't just be about who gets airtime. It would be about how those voices are treated, questioned, and contextualized within the broader conversation. When a story breaks, journalists today are often given leeway to infuse their own opinions, allowing personal perspectives to color the way news is delivered. Instead of reporting with strict neutrality, they filter information through their own biases, whether consciously or unconsciously, shaping how the audience perceives events. A genuinely impartial approach would mean presenting raw facts, free from spin, and then allowing a variety of viewpoints to engage in real discussion. It would mean resisting the urge to subtly guide viewers toward a predetermined conclusion. In an ideal world, journalists would lay out the facts, introduce different perspectives, and let the audience form their own opinions. But that's not what CNN does. The network, like many others, frames stories in ways that reinforce certain political narratives, making it difficult for viewers to get an unfiltered, unbiased version of events.
On CNN being a place of credibility, I mean, look at what just happened in Chicago. We had 300 people from CNN on the ground covering that convention. There were several reporters from just our team alone on the floor, bringing it in real time to people. And I think CNN puts resources behind things and just brings a level of news that you don't get anywhere else. And I think CNN does a great job.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the people on CNN. And what I know what the conservative side of America thinks, and I don't blame them. I watched Kamala's speech last night. It ended at 8:09, I guess 11:09 in the East. It wasn't until 11:23 till the one conservative guy, what's his name?
Scott Jennings.
This Lonely Scott, I call him.
David Urban was there too.
Wait a second. I watched from 8:09 to 8:23, they were just gushing about how great a speech it was. And I think she did fine. I didn't think it was as good as they were making it out to be. But if I'm a conservative in America and I'm watching CNN, just for the straight middle of the road, that's what I hear for 15 minutes, is it's great, and then Lonely Scott. It does look, I mean, and when you see the path, it does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. It's like it's almost better to have nobody there, like MSNBC, than to have just the...
Well, I don't think you could say it's better to have nobody there than also lament the fact that you don't think the conservative guy, Scott Jennings, who is great, and we have him on my show all the time, spoke up early enough. I think it was a Democratic convention. They turned to Democrats, people like David.
If you go back and look at CNN's coverage of the Republican National Convention, you'll notice a stark difference in their approach. Immediately after key speeches concluded, CNN's analysts wasted no time jumping in with criticism, highlighting what they didn't like, pointing out perceived flaws, and framing the discussion with a negative slant. This kind of immediate pushback is a pattern when it comes to their coverage of conservative events. It's incredibly difficult for a network that operates with a clear bias to maintain the illusion of objectivity. The best thing they could do at this point is simply be honest about it. At least then, they'd earn some respect for their transparency. MSNBC, for example, doesn't pretend to be neutral. They openly lean left, and their audience knows exactly where they stand. That level of clarity fosters a stronger, more loyal viewership than CNN, which continues to claim neutrality, while consistently pushing one side's narrative. Now, let's look at the numbers. Back in 2021, CNN had a subscriber base of 80 million households. By December 2023, that number had dropped to 68 million, a loss of 12 million viewers in just 2 years. That's not a minor dip. It's a significant decline that speaks volumes about how audiences perceive the network. Even more telling, recent reports show that CNN ranks third among cable news networks, trailing behind both Fox News and MSNBC. Their average daily viewership has dropped to just 580,000, marking a staggering 50% decline from the previous year. This trend isn't unique to CNN. Viewership across all cable news networks has been declining, but their drop is particularly sharp. Compare that to independent creators and alternative media platforms, which are experiencing a surge in audience engagement. Countless other independent voices are rising, proving that people are seeking alternatives to traditional media. This shift is happening because audiences are tired of being misled and manipulated. The legacy media model, with its carefully curated narratives and selective outrage, is becoming obsolete. CNN and networks like it are a dying breed. It's only a matter of time before they're completely replaced by platforms that prioritize truth, transparency, and genuine discussion.
Dan, what explains why certain Republicans like Tucker Carlson have become so pro-Putin? Good question. What does explain that?
Your buddy. Man, I don't know. Tucker hates my guts. I mean, I think we all know that.
Well, that says a lot for you.
Yeah, you guys. I don't know how to explain Tucker. I've never met Tucker. Never even spoken with him. He just trashes me because I think it's a bad idea if Russia wins a land war in Europe. And I would remind everybody, I know this is getting serious, but I would remind everybody, if you don't stop Russia there, right, and we're spending maybe 5 to 10% of our GDP, defense spending just on supporting Ukraine so they can fight their own battles. If you didn't do that, if you never gave them any Stingers, never gave them any Javelins, you'd have a Russian army that is fully intact and also very aware that we don't defend our friends, and they'd be on the border of former NATO countries. If you want to get closer to war, that's how you get closer to war. So what do I make of some random, his opinion who got fired from Fox News? I don't know.
That opinion, which I agree with, is out of step with your own party.
It's about half and half. I mean,
really?
You can see it in our votes, yeah. I mean, it's an ongoing discussion. And Trump, by the way, has never ran away from it. Trump has always said, first of all, he threatened Putin when he was in office. He said, well, we're going to
With what, a kiss?
In a culture like Russia's, that would be a threat.
Right.
But no, he said, purportedly said, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Moscow if you invade Ukraine. In any case, we know he didn't invade Ukraine while he was president. He increased the lethal aid to Ukraine by a lot, actually. And he's never said he's backing away from Ukraine. What he has said is it should be a loan, that we should have mining rights, Europeans should pay more, all things I think we all agree with.
Okay.
Except that whole impeachment thing.
Which part? The ones that Democrats impeached him for?
Withholding aid to Ukraine.
The thing that Biden did before that.
Point.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, but that's diplomacy. And Biden did the exact.
That's not diplomacy.
Biden did the exact same thing, literally to the exact same country.
No, he didn't.
Yes,
Really?
he did.
What'd he do?
He was bragging about withholding aid unless they fired the prosecutor
corrupt
that is,
prosecutor,
right,
which is what
exactly.
your party
That's
complains about
That's
when
diplomacy.
sending aid to them.
So American presidents have that power to say, no, we're going to withhold aid because we don't like what you're doing. If our State Department and I'm not bashing Biden for doing that either, by the way.
But Trump was withholding aid because he wanted an investigation into
what is
Hunter
within their
Biden.
powers as the president. Sorry,
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think CNN is truly as unbiased as they claim, or do you agree that their coverage leans in a particular direction? Drop your opinions in the comments below, and let's have a real conversation about media bias and the future of news. Your feedback is always appreciated, and I value the different perspectives you all bring to the table. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps independent creators like me continue to challenge mainstream narratives and bring fresh perspectives to the conversation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.